I think what we can do is we can probably start the recording as well. All right, so first of all, welcome everyone to our information session for the FIN 2021 semester 1 module. My name is Derek, and I'm going to be the instructor who runs the Bingo CA learning program. And so before I jump into the FIN module, in terms of what you should expect and of course, how you should study and prepare for the module so that you pass with confidence, or if you are a high achiever, how can you get a merit? I'll talk about that in a minute. But before I jump into that, I'll just give you a brief introduction in terms of who I am and what I do. So I've been working with actually the Institute of Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand for almost 10 years. And initially I was there as a facilitator. Now this is when the CA program was actually still person to person, which is, I guess, for many of you, something that is unheard of, given that it is all sort of online and self-study. But almost around 10 years ago, the CA was actually an in-person type of program. And so I was usually a technical facilitator who led classrooms. So we used to have like these classrooms in the evening, and I'll talk through the module and of course, the technical information and how you apply that technical information to a particular problem. So I've been doing that with the CA for quite some time. And then more recently, I've decided to partner with Bingo Training to offer this comprehensive sort of online-based platform for CA module tuition. And so far, we've actually been in operation for more than a year. We've helped hundreds of students successfully pass their CA module, and we've had very high success rates in terms of people passing the exam first go. We've also had quite a number of successes with respect to people obtaining merits. And so for people who ask me, is the CA difficult, and can I pass it with ease? My answer to you is that definitely it is a yes, as long as you have the right framework and the right sort of study technique for the module, and you're prepared to work consistently, then I think it is definitely doable. So so that's sort of a bit of a background, and I guess if we jump into the next slide, just try to see how this is working. Oh, I think it's here. We can just go through what you should expect for the FIN module and how you should best study for it. So the FIN module, which is really about financial reporting, so financial reporting and historical financial information, really centers on candidates learning of accounting standards. Okay, so there is a number of standards that candidates will go through over the course, and you need to understand what these standards are about, what they say in terms of how you should account for various types of transactions. And so part of that will mean that you will be required to write journal entries. Okay, or you'll be required to calculate what is the amount you should recognize as property, plant, and equipment. So there is going to be quite a bit of technical knowledge being demonstrated through the module. And to be honest, the module itself is actually quite boring because this is about accounting standards, and some accounting standards are really, they're quite long. Okay, so there's a lot of things or components associated with these standards, and they're quite long, and they're fairly detailed as well. So the idea of, candidates must be able to really have that sort of detailed or this precision-based approach to ensure that you get things right. This is clearly a module where those types of skills and attributes are being emphasized. Okay, but the module itself is primarily about accounting standards. Now, in terms of the flow of the module, there's no real sort of logical flow in terms of the modules. The units themselves, they're not necessarily interrelated. Okay, and so it's not like other CA modules, for example, in audit, where the materials that you learn in Unit 1 to 3 actually become applicable when you study for Units 5 and 6. And so that type of sort of sequential sort of knowledge building is really absent in this module. So this is more about each unit focuses on a particular type of accounting standard, and you need to know that standard in some detail. So in terms of how you should best prep for this, my suggestion is broadly going to be summarized in three main points, which is number one is that you need to be disciplined. Okay, so this is not the type of unit where you can sort of leave things to the very end. And the reason why I say this is because some units are quite overwhelming because the amount of technical information is quite extensive. So for instance, in Unit 9, which you'll see covers on the accounting for financial instruments. Okay, so this involves a lot of understanding financial assets, financial liabilities, and the calculation of various types of derivative instruments and hedge accounting. So these are very, very technical units that is not really can be crammed or studied in a very short period of time. I mean, it's possible, but it's definitely not recommended. And so the idea behind this module is that you definitely want to be disciplined and allocate your time so that you chip away at each of the units on a regular basis, and don't leave things for too long in between, because otherwise you'll find that it becomes quite hard to pick things up again, especially because some of the technical knowledge that you need is not always going to be straightforward. In terms of the second point, which I would say is the most important point for you when you approach your study, is that you want to be able to apply your studies with some sort of structure. Okay, so it's very easy to get lost in particular units, and some of the units, especially some of those consolidation topics at the end of the module, units 14, 15, 16, 17, they are really quite deep in terms of looking at various parts of the consolidation process. So I think for a lot of candidates, they easily get lost in the materials, and they can't really focus on the big picture. So to use an analogy, it's to say that you can probably look at trees, but then you don't have an idea of how big the forest is. And so that's the type of area that you need to be aware of, is that, well, this unit is not just on consolidation, there's actually just multiple topics that are there on a sort of more isolated basis. So you want to be able to structure your studies so that you are able to go into detail when required, and then also to focus on the bigger picture. And so that would be the second point. And the third point is going to be about practice. So it's one thing to read the standard. Okay, so you read the standard, you're going to become more knowledgeable in the standard. However, in the final exam, the final exam is not asking you to write, what does the standard say? The final exam is ultimately about you being able to interpret the standard and then to apply it to a particular problem. So this practical application of technical knowledge or of theoretical knowledge is going to be quite key as well. And so many students that typically don't do very well in the unit, what they find is they say to me, oh, I read the standard and it seems really straightforward. I can understand why things happen. And then I say to them, well, did you practice applying the standards to questions? And like, oh no, I didn't. I just read through questions and examples. And so that's really going to be an area that this unit focuses on quite strongly, which is you have to be in a position where you're comfortable writing out journal entries, right? You need to get into the habit of writing journal entries. You need to get into the habit of being able to calculate things on Excel or on your calculator. It doesn't matter what method you use, but you need to be comfortable in putting numbers together. So this practical aspect for the module is going to be very, very important. Okay, and I cannot stress this enough. And so also, a lot of students, where they tend to go wrong in the module is definitely with respect to their attention to detail, okay, or accuracy. So what you tend to find is that you go through a unit, you go through a technical unit, and then you learn about the standards, you see a couple of practice questions, you read through them, you attempt some as well. But then when you go into the final exam, a lot of students are like, oh, well, this question here is actually very different to what I encountered in the worked examples or in the activities, and therefore I was stuck. And so in this type of situation, what tends to happen is that students, they like to memorize, okay, or they like to build some sort of routine or pattern with respect to how they should approach certain questions. Now, this is not exactly going to be enough, especially if you want to get a really good result for the module. And so what becomes really important is that you need to really go into the detail and understand why the standard is written in this particular way, okay? And one of the great things that we do in our program is actually we help you understand why the standards are written in a particular way. And then we also explore a whole range of different scenarios in which you can apply this particular standard. Okay, and I think that's going to be key, because by understanding the standard and being able to see the standard being applied in a range of scenarios, okay, you're going to be able to have that greater confidence in being able to execute questions correctly. Okay, and so the idea about understanding why things happen and the ability to apply the standard to a range of scenarios is going to be quite important, okay, because this is not going to be a unit where you just memorize journals or you establish some sort of pattern and then try to apply it. Okay, so I would say these are the key areas where students go wrong for this unit. And of course, I mentioned earlier where the three areas where you need to be more careful about in your studies. Okay, so I did see some comments in the chat, and I'll address them in due course as well. So a bit more information about our particular program and what we try to do is that it's really about, I think, being able to help you organize your time in a more effective way. Okay, so we have a number of technical information and videos that we have already prepared for this unit. And so each video is actually structured in a very nice way so that they focus on a particular concept or a particular topic, and it's in a very digestible form. Okay, it's not going to be extremely long, right? So they're nicely paced units of study that you can listen to in whatever time is more convenient for you. Okay, so we have a range of videos that help you really understand, the key areas that you need to focus on for each of the units, because each of the units, as you'll find in the module, is actually quite, they can be quite long, okay? And we are here to really help you synthesize that information into a more concise format so it's easy to understand. But I would say that the biggest value add that we provide for students is really about this practical instruction. So it's not always going to be about theoretical understanding. We trust that you can probably read the standard yourself, or you can listen to the video, but we also offer quite a lot of extensive support with respect to going through a range of examples and work and activities. And I would say in particular, what we try to do in some of these questions is we try to deconstruct key areas of understanding so that you understand more about why things happen, as opposed to just trying to rote learn particular areas. So we give you a lot of practical guidance as well. And of course, the third point, which I hope is something that we can, that a lot of students have told us that they have found it to be quite useful, is that we make the materials quite easy to understand. Okay, so we don't try to use a lot of technical knowledge in explaining concepts. We actually use language that is very straightforward. And so it's really been the clear instruction and the ability to help provide more real life examples of some of these areas. And so these are going to be some of the key benefits that we can provide to yourselves. And of course, in terms of our candidate base, we've got many people who work, work under pretty whole variety of circumstances. Some people have young families, some people have to work late, and the like. And so we know that the CA really does become quite a big time commitment. And so again, when we've designed this program, we were really here to think about, well, how can we ease a lot of these burdens that candidates carry? And so these are some of the areas that we really focus on. Now, each of the lessons, I think another great part about them is that they're going to help you keep disciplined. Okay, so many people have the idea that, oh, they can just leave the modules towards the end. But we actually have, and I'll show you in a minute, our live schedule. So every week we're going to at least interact, so that we're going to see areas where you're having difficulty with. So again, when you do decide to undertake the program, you can ask us pretty much any questions that you may have with respect to the materials. We'll be here to offer you support and guidance so that you don't feel you're doing it by yourself. So I think a lot of the interaction that we provide has also been cited by some of our previous candidates and current candidates as well. So you can see that for this particular module, we do have the schedule as indicated here. So a variety of sort of these live sessions that we have penciled in. So the first one actually begins on tomorrow from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And so here, these live sessions are there to complement the materials that you would already see if you decide to subscribe. So we do have materials that we have already made for units 1 to 4 that you can go through in your own time. And so for tomorrow's session, I might just focus on some of the more important parts of the units and the standard, and really just jump into a variety of practice questions and applications. So we do have quite a nice schedule here. And you can see that our particular schedule is run at a fairly aggressive rate. So we try to cover off most of the unit well before what sort of the CA prescribed, because we think that one of the key areas where students may want to focus on some time is sort of put the unit all together. So our goal is to try to get the unit, get the information finalized by the 10th of April, And then we have a number of exam preparation series where we go through past exam questions around both the 17th of April and also on the 24th of April. And we think that the combination of being able to finish the unit more aggressively will give you more time to assess in terms of where you're going right, okay, or where you're going wrong, or areas that you have difficulty with. So we've got plenty of time to rectify, I guess, those challenging areas. And then we leave ourselves at least sort of a 2 to 3 week window where we focus exclusively on the final exam. So that's going to be an area where we're going to sort of keep you quite disciplined. So in terms of the program in itself, so the total bundle, what you get is you're going to receive 16 hours of live tuition, and we have almost up to 20 hours of pre-recorded information that explains the technical units. Now, in each of these live sessions, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be focusing on a combination of theory and also a range of practice questions. And again, use these sessions to ask me any question that you have with respect to the module, especially why things happen and why do they do it this way. Now, part of the live 16 hours is going to be inclusive of the exam preparation that will occur closer towards the final exam date. So you do get 4 hours of intense preparation for final exams, where we really just go through a range of problems and apply standards in a variety of ways. And of course, we have quite a treasure trove of online recorded information already that you can access to straight away. So that's going to be our program. Now, in terms of the cost of the program, I don't think this is a steep cost. This is around 560 that we are pricing it, which is very competitive. And of course, we do have a special promo as well. So if you are keen, I would strongly encourage you to contact Ben, who can help you arrange for that promo. And so in terms of just what we also do, it's not just Fin that we're running this semester. We also have a program in place for management accounting. And so we've been doing this I've been doing this personally for more than 10 years. And along this platform, this is our second year of operation. And we really have materials for all of the technical units, including Capestone as well. So that's going to be in terms of what our program is. I might just pause there and try to go through some of the chat questions. So let me have a look through these questions, as I saw a couple of them. So the first question, I think, is could you give some specific examples of, I think the question is relating to where the detail sort of matters. I think this is your question, Zubin. So if I'm not answering, please let me know if this is where you're getting to. So there's a unit in the module, which is Unit 9. It's about understanding financial assets and financial liabilities. And so the journal entry for a company who issues a bond, okay, so if you are a company and you issue a bond, how do you treat transaction costs, okay? And if you are a company and you buy a particular bond, okay, then how do you account for the fact that, the price that you pay for the bond is going to be potentially higher than what its par value is. And so the scenario is really about issuing a bond. However, the journal entry actually differs quite significantly. If you are if you are issuing the bond is obviously a liability. And if you're buying the bond, then obviously the bond is an asset. So that's going to be an example where we're just knowing who you are in that particular transaction is going to be very important. Okay, so this is an area that many students sort of struggle in. Okay, so this is an example of you must be in a position where you're quite detailed. And so as you read the case study, as you read the scenario, it's not always going to be obvious in terms of if you are an issuer or if you are a buyer of bonds. Okay, but that's just an example that has come to mind. Okay, and there are many other examples as well. Is there a link to a page that outlines the details of your program? So really the detail of the program is what I've explained it, which is, going back to the prior slide, we've got information for all of them, the units that we have already created. And every week there's going to be a live session where where I would emphasize parts of the materials or the theory and the standards, and then go through a range of practice problems. Okay, so these practice problems are mainly there so that you can see how theory is applied, okay, and also it's going to help you with quizzes from time to time. But really the focus is to make sure that you're going to be in a position where you can comfortably look at a final exam question and have a pretty good idea in terms of how to approach it. Do we need to engage with the CSG if we do this program? The answer is no, because we already have slides and the videos already summarize the key parts of the CSG. So if you follow these slides, you won't be required to read through the CSG. Now, obviously, I would encourage you to read the CSG if there was a particular area that you are not sure about. Okay, and if you find that the CSG is not useful, then of course you can ask us, and then we can look at the actual standard and then help you summarize an area that you're not sure of. Okay, so that's usually the approach in terms of how I do it. I don't really recommend you just reading the standard. It is a pretty boring document. It's a pretty long document. So I try to give you the essence of what it is and ensure that you're in a good position to apply that for different problems. That's a great question. How do we deal with new exam structure changes? Okay, so as we get closer towards the final exam, we will go through in more detail what you should expect. Given that last year, CA has moved into sort of an online examination format. So we'll go through some of the areas in terms of how you best deal with that. In terms of the unit itself, we will also release whatever updates that are incorporated into the materials as we go along through the program. So we'll definitely ensure that the program is fit for purpose. So there's going to be no problem there. So I think that's all of the questions for now. So again, a great set of questions. Then what I might do, I know we're running a little bit over time, but I might just give you some examples of where I think, what we do that is great in terms of how it focuses your own understanding. So for example, if you look at, so these are just some sort of examples about our technical, some of the materials that we summarize for you. So maybe if we look at this one here, which is events after the reporting date, you can see that our slide in here really just focuses on things that you really need to know in order to correctly classify for transactions that occur after the reporting date. So the standard itself gives you two different outcomes, which is you either adjust the event or you don't adjust and you disclose the event. And so this is sort of a type of material that we would go through that just helps you summarize that sort of those sort of scenarios. At the same time, we've got this one here, which is for Unit 3. It is about revenue recognition. It pretty much focuses on the exact steps in terms of what you need to do for understanding the process. And so it's really in here, you can see that this is a 5-step process for revenue recognition. And then we've got materials that would go through each of these steps and tell you what you need to focus on. So for example, if we jump into step 3, which is how to determine the transaction price. Okay, so the price for a transaction, it can really be obtained from a variety of sources. There would, in most cases, be an explicit price that is agreed in the contract. However, there could also be the idea of variable consideration, which is prices that you may receive for your good or service if particular events were to occur in the future. Now, because these events are future orientated, you don't necessarily know today whether or not they're going to happen. So what the standard does is that there's 2 broad approaches in terms of how you should recognize this. The first one utilizes an expected value approach, where you've got a range of future outcomes and you attach probabilities with that, and then you pretty much look at the average of those probabilities. Okay, so that's the expected value approach. And then the second approach is the most likely amount. So if you have 5 different scenarios that could potentially happen in the future, but there's one particular scenario that you think has the highest probability, well, you can simply just go with that scenario. So this is just an example of what you need to do in order to determine the transaction price. So with that, what I might do is I might, again, ask if you have any further questions. But if not, thank you for attending today's session. I believe you will get an incredible amount of detail out of the program for a very sort of competitively priced product. Now, in terms of the pass rate, so we recently launched a module last year, and we had almost twice the pass rate as what the CA achieved. So we've had a predominantly very high success rates amongst our candidates, sort of almost around the 90% level for Fin. For audit, we ran a session last year where pretty much all of our candidates passed. So that was very, very pleasing. And so we do have a very strong record in terms of helping candidates pass the exam. And of course, within those candidates, we also have quite a high number of people getting merits as well. So you do get a merit in the unit of study if you are able to come within the top 5% of the cohort. So last time we did have, for audit, we had almost sort of a quarter of students attain a merit. And then for Fin, we had slightly a bit less than a quarter. So we are running quite strongly for the program. And I think, again, it's just representative of the value that we create for candidates. And of course, at the end of the day, we know the materials very well. I've been doing this for more than 10 years. And I think there's definitely going to be a lot of value for you if you decide to enroll. So again, thank you very much for your time. And we do have a special promotion as well. So please speak to Bin, because I do recall that the timing for that, I think, may have already passed. But I think if you speak to Bin, I think he might still be able to arrange a special promo for you. If you have any, if you know of any friends or anyone else who may be interested in the module as well, again, feel free to contact us. If you do come with a friend, I think we're also able to help you as well in terms of extending that promo to your friend as well. So again, thank you for your time. Best of luck in your studies. So if you do get anything out of today's session, at least is number one, you need to be disciplined. So don't be lazy, don't slack off. Second is think about the structure. And third is practice your application. So thank you for your time. I hope everyone stays safe. And if you do decide to come along to tomorrow's session, I will see you then. So thank you for your time. Goodbye.